The unit is promising, but can they put it together in 2025?
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Louisville. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is year number 5 of covering U of L, year number 3 of hosting the show, soon to be numbers 6 and 4 respectively. But anyways, continuing along in our football position preview series, continuing with the defense to discuss and focus on the linebackers room. We have brought back, I feel like I had to continue to bring back all of the guys from the state of Louisville, but it's my main guy, Keith Arutoff, over from the Pink Seats podcast and just multimedia talent at the state of Louisville. Producer Keith, what's going on?
Another day trying to trudge through the dog days of summer. Just one day closer to football season, man.
We are one day closer. We're soon going to be we have 2 weeks before we're 1 month away. That's why we're trying to knock out these position preview series. We only have 3 more episodes to go. We're going to have a jam-packed linebacker episode. The inside options, TJ Quinn, Stanquan Clark are back. Is this a breakout season for Antonio Watts at the star spot? Where does Louisville need to improve the most behind a lackluster 2024 campaign and heading into a promising 2025 season? But first, today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Producer Keith, looking at, or actually multimedia Keith, I'm really going to coin that term. You look at this linebacker room, and it is by far, without a doubt, the unit on the defense with the most continuity. Like, they are replacing really not all that much, especially on the inside. I mean, you have Geronte Davis and Dan Foster, but the remaining production is intact. You've got TJ Quinn, multiple year starter, 80 plus tackles the past 2 seasons, and also Stanquan Clark, which is where we'll start. This is a money season for the rising junior. Breakout year last year with 76 total tackles, 6'3", 235 pounds. I know he missed a good portion of the spring with a shoulder injury, but he's in line to, if all goes well, this could very well be his last season in the Derby City.
Yeah, this will be his 3rd season, so NFL draft eligible, and Stanquan's one of those guys who has that talent and has the ability to play at the next level. And, he's going to be a motivated dude trying to go out, put up good tape so that he can make that leap. I'm kind of hoping hey, let's have a kind of good year. Maybe not like your draft stock. Let's get you for 1 more year. Come on, please.
We'll be one of those random guys that like Gelati, where he has a really good year and he's like, yeah, I need 1 more year in college to be able to make sure I'm well-rounded. But I mean, it all starts with him. I mean, there's not a true weakness I perceive in his game that kind of flashes out at you. But I mean, it feels like, again, despite a breakout season, he's just scratching the surface there in that potential. It's sort of a little bit of a different case for a guy like TJ Quinn, where it feels like a lot of what you see is what you're going to get. Really, really solid run stopper. Questionable in coverage last year. We're going to talk more on that in the final segment, but I'm one of those people that really, really is glad for the continuity in this room, because TJ Quinn brings a lot to this room, both on and off the field.
Yeah, he's going to, I believe, ACC Media Days representing the team. And at this point, I think it's fair to say he's the captain of the defense. He's, I think, the longest tenured expected starter that's been on the team for, I think this is his 5th year now, which is wild to say in today's college football environment, that you have a P4 starting player that's been with the same team for 5 years. So a lot of the defense is probably going to be coming to look to him for leadership. And like you said, when it comes to the run defense, there's no questions there when it comes to coverage, I'm looking for more. Can we stop making mental mistakes? So many times last year, you'd be caught out of position because his eyes would be in the wrong place. He'd be looking at the wrong thing, and that'd cause him to be out of position to one, either get gashed by a running quarterback or leave a guy open across the middle, where we got tore up pretty often last season.
And another TJ that a lot of people are focusing on, one that it's been a roller coaster. Of course, he reclassifies because he's injured, spends that year rehabbing, comes into 2024, and 6 tackles and an interception in the season opener. Doesn't have a ton of production. That's mainly because of how good the other guys were or perceived going in. But, he kind of got called out by the coaching staff. What was it, last spring? Was it something like that? And since then, he's been like, the model citizen in that linebacker room, a guy that has been putting in a ton of that extra effort. We thought we could lose him. He entered the portal, rescinded his name. I mean, in terms of ceiling, Keith, if we can get this guy to even scratch the surface of what he truly could become, I mean, you're talking about a really good potential backup at that weak side linebacker spot.
Yeah, and even just watching him in spring ball at the open practices, he looks like he's made a lot of strides. Like Stanquan missed some time in spring. We talked about that earlier. And Capers was the guy who stepped in and filled that role, which kind of surprised me coming into spring ball. I was expecting the veteran Kalib Perry to sort of slot into that, but they went with Capers, and Capers looked and played the part very well. I wouldn't be shocked to see us try to rotate linebackers more this season than we did last year, to keep bodies fresh, and also because you trust the depth more. Capers, I think, is a guy who went out and showed that he can be trusted, especially over the course of the spring. And if he has a strong camp, I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the field quite a bit this fall.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree there. And I feel like I have to explain this because I had actually 2 people ask me because they knew linebackers was coming up. And they said, we've looked at the depth chart. And can you, in your best words, explain to me the difference between the middle linebacker and the weak side linebacker? Basically, what that means, the middle linebacker, I mean, you see what you're getting. He's going to play right there in the center, kind of be that quarterback of the defense. More often than not, they usually have more responsibilities in the run game. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Keith. The weak side is going to play opposite of the most offensive personnel. So usually opposite of that tight end, opposite of the majority of the other offensive personnel, and that's going to give him a ton of versatility to be able to get out in coverage, delay a blitz, get out in space, and just make plays. It's usually your more versatile guys, and can do more in coverage while also playing near the line of scrimmage. That's where you're going to see more of your weak side linebacker. So as it relates to this team, Stanquan Clark is going to start at that weak side linebacker spot. And it could be Kalib Perry backing up Clark here. I think he's probably maybe going to be the middle linebacker backup to TJ Quinn. I think Capers. It's going to be so much substitution to where I kind of want to hold off on talking too much about Perry for the next segment because I think he's going to play another role. But Keith, anything you want to add to that very quick dissertation?
No, you summed it up very well, and we'll talk more about Perry coming up. But he's a piece I didn't expect to be a depth add when he came in. The fact that he might be, I think, is optimistic for our linebacking core because, the kid's a Swiss Army knife. I'm so excited to rave about this kid.
And there's a certain aspect that I feel like people acknowledge it, but they overlook it with Kalib Perry. And I'm going to tell you what that is immediately after we tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Card Nation, today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights or golf on the green, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. Well, you're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends, also known as Keith, are getting sunburnt and they have to wear hats on other broadcasts. But I should have thrown that straight, Keith. Multimedia Keith. is a GOAT. You want to know who else is a GOAT? FanDuel. Because of all the daily promotions, it's easy to use, fast to pay out. Whether it's a same game parlay or you're watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. New to FanDuel? Well, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Card Nation, thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Producer Keith, I feel kind of bad for throwing that shot at you, but hey, man, you can rock a hat.
You know what? Sometimes I get sunburnt because I'm busy making every moment more.
And you want to know what else means more? The SEC. And you want to know what Kalib Perry has that these other linebackers on Louisville's roster don't? SEC experience. And that is something that we're acknowledging, guys. But I don't think we're truly grasping in terms of how it's going to translate to Kalib Perry on the field for Louisville. Number one, in terms of getting rattled on the road, not going to happen. Perry was one of those guys that you look at the stats. I mean, nothing's going to jump off the page, but he was a regular in that rotation for that Volunteer defense. And like Keith said, and I'll let him explain it more at the moment, Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I mean, the kid is so versatile and he has such a unique frame, like taller kid, super long limbs. I wouldn't be shocked to see this kid make plays on special teams. I think this is a guy who could sneak up and end up blocking like 2 or 3 kicks this season because of the frame he has. At Tennessee, they used him almost like a swingman sort of coverage, like 3rd and longs, like covering underneath, tailing a running back wherever he goes to not fall for a screen. They used him as an edge rusher because of the limbs that he was able to utilize. They used him to plug holes in the middle. He's not afraid to initiate contact. Like, this is a versatile guy who can sort of do it all. And that's why I feel like it sort of naturally slots into that star position that we're getting ready to talk about.
Yeah, and the star position is an interesting one because the depth, like when you look at it on the surface, might not be there until you realize that you might have to pull from some of the inside the linebacker spot to give you that depth. Kalib Perry could very well be that backup for Antonio Watts, who is going to be in that star position, which is, of course, that outside linebacker in coverage. What's his face you're making?
Oh, my backlight just blew up on me. So just trying to resolve that.
The lighting is fine anyway, producer. Multimedia Keith. I'm going to get it right. But, I'll be completely honest with you. Every single year that I've hosted this show, I've had one player that I'm just obnoxiously high on. 2023, it was Jawar Jordan, and he blew up. 2024, it was Isaac Brown. And what do you know it? He blew up. I'm not sitting here saying I am the football whisperer. I'm also not saying that. That's probably multimedia Keith. But that player this season is Antonio Watts. Like, I feel like one of the more athletic players on this team. He's finally not splitting those snaps with Ben Perry. Like, he's going to be the one at the star spot. 6'2", 225. Really good athletic hybrid outside linebacker that can go sideline to sideline, had a breakout year last season, and pretty much kind of saved the Cardinals program from having a sour taste to end the season, broke up that pass on the 2-point conversion in the Sun Bowl. Keith, I am obnoxiously high on what Antonio Watts could do this year. I'm talking about a hard thumper. This guy brings the punch.
Yeah, this is a kid who... You know, like when you're playing the football video game and you got that guy who's addicted to using the hit stick on every single tackle. That's the type of guy Antonio Watts is. He's going to be ruining some people's wear and tear meters this year. But I would like to see a little bit more control, because there were some opportunities where you just break down, make a smooth form tackle. You could make a play. He comes in like a missile trying to end the bloodline of someone, and it causes a mistake. But I feel like this is a kid who a lot of people are really excited about. You're not the only one on Watts Island. He's a kid that you can really, it's really easy to get excited for, because you see the playmaking ability. Now, I think the possibility of having him and Perry in more of a rotational role at that star position, honestly, will free him up to be able to play with more energy, be more aggressive, because you're not having to go out there and put up 70, 80 snaps a game, knowing that you're not going to get any sort of reprieve. So Watts is definitely one guy I can definitely see being a defensive breakout star. I guess we're calling him that, even though is it really a breakout?
You know, my hot take for this, one of my hot takes for the defense was that he's going to be on an all ACC team. Like, that's one of my hot takes. Like, I really think that he's going to be able to get the turnovers necessary. And I mean, he had as sort of like that hybrid backup, like 50 total tackles. So I could see that number jumping. But what I didn't realize until now, and I'm not sure how, is that one Perry left just for another Perry to compete for those snaps. And I'm like, dude, this guy can't catch a break. But there's also another player that we probably could have talked about in the middle linebacker, inside linebacker conversation that probably is going to still be down that depth chart. One player that I know you and I are pretty high on that skill set, and that is redshirt freshman, 6'3" from Jacksonville, Florida, Trent Carter. Trent Carter is a player that has, I think, the versatility to also excel in coverage. I think that might be where his bread and butter is in the Power Four anyways. So maybe this becomes like a natural transition to the star spot for Carter, considering that at the moment, unless you pull a safety down to the spot or you go down the line maybe to a freshman or a walk-on, Trent Carter could be a line for those snaps as well.
Yeah, and it would not shock me to see him get an opportunity to play, not just in blowouts this season, because he's another guy who really impressed in spring ball. He's looked very good. I think the staff would like to let him grow and develop a bit more and not have to throw him into the fire super early. Right. So, but he's another kid, like he could be a star or he could be sort of like that wheel linebacker in the future, because you've got a nice developmental trio in the linebacker room of Carter, and then you have Kalib Matalau and Cam White, who are both likely to redshirt this year.
Yeah, I was about to say, it seems like a very, very clear redshirt season for both of those guys.
Yeah, and so you look at that trio and like looking at the future, you could easily see Cam White playing the Mike linebacker spot, and then some combination of Carter and Matalau at that wheel and star hybrid. Like, it's really easy to get excited about the youth, but to pull it back to Trent Carter, don't be afraid if you see this kid on the field. The kid he was balling as a true freshman. Like, he was so impressive. I've been blown away with what I've seen from him. He's just got a lot of talent in front of him. So we'll see.
I think that could lead him to be into one of those like special teams darlings, where like he's one of those guys to where, I mean, you look at the modern NFL and you see like these special teams guys, like special teams specialists, and they're getting paid like a decent amount. And they're like, well, why is this? Because you're realizing just how, no pun intended, special teams are. I mean, how many games like the Georgia Tech game, if Louisville doesn't block that field goal and return it, do the Cardinals win that game? Because I'm not so sure.
I mean, you could make the argument with the Clemson game. We had two blocked kicks in that game as well. So
exactly. So, I mean, special teams are, I mean, really critical. And if you're not careful, it could be one of the reasons why you lose a game. Kentucky, 2023. I'm not going to talk about that in the 22 missed holds on that return. But anyways, I do want to kind of discuss the true freshman just a little bit between Cam White and Kalib Matalau. I feel like these are two guys that, both in their own respect, a little bit underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, that's sort of been this coaching staff's
MO
when it comes to recruiting, like under-recruited talent, and both of these kids have it. I think they have a type because both these kids can thump. They are not afraid to hit.
You like see what Louisville's just like recruiting violence on the defensive, and it's like, can you hit this guy with all your force and knock him back 5 yards? No. We'll be seeing you. Good talking to you. Best of luck. But even the defensive backs that they're recruiting, just this physicality, aggression that they play with. And I'm like, sometimes you watch, you're like, damn, when they make a hit. And it's like, these linebackers definitely epitomize that.
Cam White had me asking if that kid's okay, like watching his highlight tape after we brought him in. Like, I'm like, is that kid okay?
Are you okay?
Which is the most insulting thing to hear after you get blown up. But no, Cam White and Matalau both really exciting youth. Unless things really spiral this year, fully expect them to see red shirts for this season, just to let the true freshmen develop, grow, let puberty do its thing, let them get bigger, stronger, faster. But I like the add of both of these guys, and the linebacker room is in, like I've talked about it on From the Pink Seats pod. We sneaky have a super deep linebacker room.
Yeah, I mean, the depth is there, which is awesome. And I think that the talent is there to be one of the better groups in the ACC, but there's some things that they just have to improve on. Like, bottom line, there's some things like there's one statistic, courtesy of Matt McGavick that I'm going to bring up. And it's damning. It's one of those you look at and you're like, dude, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. And I'll tell you what that stat is. And we'll also talk about where Louisville needs to improve with the linebackers when we come back on this final segment of this Wednesday edition of the show. Segment number 3, continuing along, producer / multimedia Keith Arutoff from the state of Louisville is joining us for position preview number 7 of 9. We are almost to the end. Keith, I'm going to read you this statistic courtesy of Sports Illustrated's Matt McGavick. And I quote, in Louisville's 12 games versus FBS competition on throws between the numbers and less than 20 yards downfield, opposing quarterbacks completed 71.1% of their throws for 1,245 yards. During the span, 41.5% of Louisville's total passing yards allowed and 42% of their total completions allowed came in this area of the field, which is primarily covered by the linebackers, end quote. Feels like we got to start there, Keith.
Yeah, and it, like we talked about earlier in the show, part of it could be related to personnel limitations. Part of it could be related to install limitations. I mean, how often did we talk about last season, the defense not even knowing what their base set was going into plays? So it's also something that was exacerbated because of how many dynamic runners that the defense had to face last year. Quarterbacks who were able to stretch the pocket and then move it back to inside the numbers with the pass, or just force a spy, which allows less coverage downfield and allows opportunities across the middle to make those sort of plays. I think that's part of the reason. So I would expect that stat to be improved upon this year. And I also feel like it's not unreasonable to think that there was a serious conversation to be had between Jeff Brom and Ron English regarding the defensive install, what we're going to be doing on the defensive side of the ball. We sort of saw it as the season went on to end last year as well. The defense got better. It wasn't great, but it was better.
Yeah. I mean, the linebacker core they weren't terrible. Let me go ahead and say that. Like, there was an aspect of the game that they didn't really do well there, but they were also really good defending the run. Like, they improved as a unit defending the run between 2023 and 24, which even with the improvement of schedule, I find to be very, very encouraging. And you're returning those same guys and then natural progression with guys like Stanquan, who knows what this guy could be? TJ Capers, Kalib Perry, and then TJ Quinn's leadership. Like, you have a really good group on paper. And I'll kind of piggyback off that and kind of look at that SMU game. It was almost like the defense didn't know that it was a hurry-up offense that they were going after, like out of position, didn't know their assignments. Like, there was just second guessing on what they were supposed to do. And that slightest hesitation can be the difference between big plays. And that's where Louisville was susceptible of giving up was those big plays. So I agree with you. I don't think it's all personnel. I think if you made me split it up, the majority of it to me is really not personnel. I think a lot of the majority is, how can you refine this to where your defense is a little bit easier to understand and grasp in real time? How do you make it to where you can relay it to your green or red dot, whatever you want to call it, and he can then disperse it to the rest of the defense in a timely manner? You saw that the last couple of games against Pittsburgh and Kentucky, despite going up against some woeful offenses. But then again, when a running quarterback's into the conversation, it seemed like everything was out the window. You might not be going up against as many in 2025, but I mean, the Cardinals have to be able to offer some more resistance to those quarterbacks that can stretch plays with their legs.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier in the show, but another thing that has to improve is just the eyes in coverage, the eyes on assignments, like so many times. And God, it seemed like we talked about him every single day. We recorded a game recap. TJ Quinn, bad eyes getting caught out of position. So I think with the increased depth in the room this year, I think that those type of errors, like you're not going to force a guy to be on the field if they're just not getting it. I wouldn't be shocked to see this defense have a quick hook if someone's having a bad game, which ultimately is good for the defense as a whole. Ideally, we get that install, we get that development, so we have less of those mental mistakes, less of those lapses where you're not tracking the right read and you're getting either gashed up the middle for a quarterback run or for a short pop pass. So it was a frustrating room because the talent's obviously there.
Oh, of course.
So
yeah, talent's there. I mean, this room is better than it was a year ago. I think that the better depth overall can help out. You don't see guys as gassed as much because they don't have to play as much. Like, it's like, okay, if you take TJ Quinn, what's that drop off look like, right? Well, now, I mean, you've got Kalib Perry. And you've got TJ Capers maybe being able to turn that corner. And you've got potentially Trent Carter a year older. So you've got more options. And like you said, to kind of wrap up the conversation, I would imagine that the conversation at the end of the season between Brom and Ron English wasn't just Ron going into Jeff's office saying, it's going to be better, #source, trust me, bro. Like, it's not that. Brom is too much of a football guy to let that slide. Now, I like to believe, knowing how smart the Jeff is, he's probably not letting another good season ride on the possibility of the defense not being great unless there is a clear plan of action, despite how loyal he is. So I would imagine that Ron English says, you know what, XYZ, this is what we're going to do. It's why you saw Brom spend so much time with the defense in spring ball. At the spring game, he's on the defensive side a good amount. So I think we're going to see Ron English on the field probably for the majority of this season. And just overall, I think that there's a lot to prove. Like, there are a lot of eyes on Ron English. His back is against the wall, and he's coaching for his job. So something's got to give here. And it's not something that you probably have that ability to be patient with. Like, you need to see it pretty early on because that leash, I would imagine, isn't all that long.
It will be interesting to see. We were talking about the schedule a little bit before recording.
First
where
three
it's like,
games, I mean, you should handle business.
Yeah, you've got the bye games where you should, keyword should, be taking care of business. I know it's annoying. You have that pesky early bye week sort of thrown in there. So it's really like you have to wait until late September, early October before you really get your first true big stress test. When you have at Pitt and then you play Virginia here, both of which who I think are very improved teams who did a lot in the portal. So it'll be fascinating to watch, and fingers crossed it's a non-conversation. We just have an elite defense.
Buddy, Virginia could be 0-11, haven't scored a touchdown all season, and for some reason that game against Louisville is going to be way too close for comfort. And it's just so frustrating. It's been like that. It feels like every time we play them almost. But nonetheless, we'll save that for the schedule breakdown. We are through 7 position previews. We got 2 more to go. We got the cornerbacks and the safeties, which will be conducted next week. We got a mailbag episode for tomorrow. Be sure to get any thoughts in. Keith, do you have any questions for tomorrow's mailbag?
Is Cooper Renvier going to be the starting kicker coming into the season?
It's going to be the first question I answer. It's going to be the title of the episode. But
pretty sure it's Renvier. I just churched up his last name to Renvier, but
hey, man, a little French add-on. He might be from Paris. We don't know. We probably do know. But overall, appreciate you all tuning in. That's going to wrap up this Wednesday edition here on July 16th. Getting so much closer and closer to football season. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here very soon. Go Cards.